Got it.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Happy?
Yes, sir.
Come on, everybody happy?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Exactly. Even if you're not happy, fake it. Okay? False enthusiasm is better than no enthusiasm. Okay? Don't kid yourself. That's a fact of life, folks. Whether you are happy or not, nobody really cares. Just get the job done. Show up in uniform. What's one of the main rules of success in life? No. The fundamental rule of success in life is what? Show up. Be there. Be awake. Participate. Be there physically. Be there mentally. That's even more. Most of you will show up physically. Yeah, I'm here. I got drool coming out of my mouth, but I'm here. No, you're not there. Your brain is checked out. And you know what? The brain's like any other muscle, folks. You don't use it, guess what happens to it? It gets soft and flabby. So some of you may have soft and flabby brains right now. Highly likely. I've been teaching high school students now for 13 years. Before that, I taught 4 years at the University of Washington, Seattle, and I taught college students. What's the difference between high school students and college students?
Older.
4 years, that's all. You're just as nutty as they are, and they're just as nutty as you are. Okay, that takes a few years to grow up. Most of you will not even mature until the time you're 25 or even older. If you do mature at all, some of you may never even do that. I know plenty of 40-year-old children. I'm sure you know a few too. The bottom line is chronology has nothing to do with maturity. I know some 12-year-old young men and women who are highly mature. And they are going to be very successful in their lives. And I know 40-year-olds that are just duds. And I hate to say it, and it's kind of rude, but that's the fact of life. Because after you leave high school, does anybody care about what you do or don't do? Not really. Who should care? You, because you're the only one that really does. Your mom and dad might love you, but even if you're a nutbag, they'll probably still love you. That's the sad part. But if you're a nutbag, yeah, they'll love you, but nobody else will. So, you guys, I understand what the Colonel's talking about because I deal with all my kids. I've got 11 high schools that I oversee and over 2,000 cadets. And every couple days, I've got some nutbag that wants to be different. I want to be different. Well, it's easy to be different and bad. It's hard to be different and good. So usually people take the easy way out and they go the easy way, which is to be lazy and dumb and unsuccessful. That's easy. That's the easy way to go. The hard way is the effort way. You got to put yourself out there, take a risk, fail, stand back up and do it again. That's my speech for the day. Now, I just handed out to you my ego list. This is my ego sheet. This is why I am the coolest guy. I am so cool, I am better than sliced bread. And that's part of what's on this sheet right in front of you there. What I'm going to tell you a little bit about is myself. I've been talking about the Army and how I got to where I am. I have a unique story. Hopefully it'll impact on some of you because I was the biggest dud and in high school, not a complete dud, but I was pretty darn close. And I managed to grow up over the years, but it took me a long time and a lot of pain. But one thing I do want to show you here is a little video. It's on YouTube. And it's just called Airborne School, or jumping out of airplanes. I spent 26 years in the United States Army. I retired in 2000, which makes me older than dirt. And these wings on my chest right here are master parachutist wings. You get these for 60 jumps like you're about to see here. Now I have 156 jumps. I have the bad knees, the 3 times separated shoulder, the broken jaw, and the 4 concussions to prove it. Most of these jumps are not in daylight, wearing a little bit of gear. Most of our jumps are done at night, carrying 250 pounds of equipment, and you jump out at 600 to 800 feet, which means you've got about 4 seconds if your parachute doesn't open before you hit the ground. And it doesn't make a splat, it makes a thud. I've seen 2 guys killed on the drop zone when their parachutes didn't open. It is not a pleasant sight. So it's a tricky business, but you're going to see here, it's a cute movie. You'll see why this is hard to do. Because it's not like skydivers. I'm always seeing the skydivers and they come out and they're flying. I've done skydiving too. You don't wear any equipment. You're all kind of fun. You're flying through the air. This is done out of a C-130 traveling 150 miles an hour. And when you come out and you step out from that door, which he's about to do here, he's making a check, and you hit that prop blast of 150 miles an hour airspeed, it's funny what it does to you if you're not in the right body position. So I'm going to turn the lights off. Anybody starts snoring, you get slapped.
Turn the lights off the back.
And we'll watch this video. This is the jump master checking the drop zone. And it's just like that. It's got a rucksack hanging down. Here's the static line. It's attached to the inside of the aircraft. They're about 1,000 feet off the ground right now. Takes 4 seconds for your parachute to open. He's about to get punched out. There he goes. They come out 1 second at a time. Oh, they hit the door. Think about this video. It's got 2 other sets of shots. This is from the inside. He jumps through. The safety second to see that nobody's hanging outside. You see all the shadow lines up here. Here's the shot where you'll see them coming out and falling away from the aircraft. 130. Watch for a couple of them. You're going to see it twist and tumble. See how it's twisted? One of them's doing it real bad here in a second. Come at me. He's checking. If any of these static lines were down here, it means somebody'd be hanging from a static line. You got hung up. We had that happen a few times too. Here's your slow motion. You can get a little better position. See how the static line pulls the parachute out of the bag and it deploys it. That's a good body position. You see it straight. Just got to get him blown up a little bit. Bag's coming out the back. That's good position. This guy sat down too much. He's spinning around. Head over heels here. This guy's really, see how he does a complete spin around? That could mean his parachute will malfunction. Those packs under their arms, under their reserve, weigh about 60 pounds. All total, the gear weighs over almost 200 pounds. This is Fort Bragg. Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where the 82nd Airborne is. These were shots done by the 82nd Airborne. Let's jump at him. He's got to clear the door, make sure everything's straight, and he's got to get out. Usually, he jumps at the very last, just right on the red light. When it says he can't jump anymore, but he goes anyway. And here's the safety check to make sure everyone's out. And that's 150 miles an hour wind. This is really neat. You get to see it from the outside. You can see it jumped earlier. Here's all the bags the parachutes came out of. You see how the bags come out? The chute deploys in the bag, and the bag stays attached to the airplane. They're coming out one per second. The really dangerous part is you're coming out both doors. You see the guys on the other side? What's really dangerous is if you both come out exactly at the same time and your chutes open at the same time right next to each other. Because they are wider than the aircraft. And that's called an entanglement. And the guys I've seen killed have been entangled. Because those chutes can't stay together. If they're entangled, they deflate each other. Not good. Now here's the slow motion. You guys, you're supposed to alternate. One door, the other door. One door, the other door. It never works that way. You just come out like toothpaste out of a toothpaste tube. Everybody out. The really bad part is if you're really behind the guy, but called riding, sometimes you get this D-bag in your face. You gotta watch that. And that's it. So wait, we'll watch this real quick. Let's watch it. This is more about the video about jump school in the airborne. This is at Fort Benning, Georgia, where they teach how to be parachutists. It's a 3-week class.
Directly to the battlefield, anywhere in the world, rapidly and ready to fight. It takes skill and courage to earn the wings of an airborne soldier. Training takes 3 weeks and happens here at Fort Benning, Georgia. To attend, you must volunteer and arrive in good condition for daily physical training.
Starts at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Week 1 is Ground Week, where you will train on individual techniques of airborne operations. You will practice actions inside the aircraft, such as the correct door position, and you will jump from the 34-foot tower.
You just strap to a pulley, and we show you how to control your body in air.
Week 2 is Tower Week, and is devoted to putting ground week skills into
These towers are 250 feet in the air. They hook you up, and they drag you all the way up and then drop you down. That's the scariest part of jump school, the going up part.
and receive instructions on parachute malfunctions.
That's the
another kind of
the
challenge.
250 tower.
You may jump from the 250-foot tower.
The chute's already inflated, obviously.
The third week is jump week, the ultimate test. A jump from an aircraft flying at 1,250 feet at 125 knots.
These are the jump master commands.
Inboard personnel, stand up. Inboard personnel, stand up.
This right here is a rifle case. He's got an M16 in that case next to him and his rucksack underneath him. Again, it's about 250 pounds. You stay in there for long enough time, your back goes out.
Check. Got it.
Each man checks the guy in front of him from the top all the way down to the static line. It's S-rolled in the back of his parachute on the back of his ruck. Make sure he's all his equipment squared away. Checks his helmet all the way down, straps. You can see the rifles on the left side.
Sound off for equipment check. Okay, jump master. Stand by.
The light up in the corner here. See where it's red? Now it's green. That means go.
Check your body position. Then count. Check canopy and gain canopy control. Keep a sharp lookout during descent. Prepare to land. And execute a parachute landing fall. To earn your wings, it takes 5 satisfactory jumps. 2 with combat equipment, and 1 at night. 3 tough weeks, working to Airborne's high standards of courage, skill, and strength.
Alrighty. Go turn the lights on. That's a little bit about what I did for many, many parts of my years. The airborne community is simply a way to get to work. In reality, although it seems a little strange. Whoops. Airborne. It's another means of transportation. Just a way to get to work, to get there. You go through all that, and then you got to actually do your job on the ground. Anyways, so real quick, talk about myself. Lieutenant Dan Hink, I'm retired United States Army Infantry. In the earlier classes, I talked about the insignia on my lapels. These are crossed rifles, means I'm infantryman. Infantry means the guys I'm walking the ground, or as the Air Force very kindly calls, earth pigs or grunts, or as the Colonel mentioned, targets. That's another thing to call ourselves. But ultimately, the ground forces of the United States Army are what win wars. The Air Force, the Navy, even though they don't like to admit it, they're the ones that come support us. You don't own ground until you stand on it. You don't have ground effectively under your control until you put somebody on the ground saying, I will defend this ground. Now, unfortunately, in the last class, we talked a lot about military history of the wars that we've all fought in, the United States Army, and they all really revolve around war, ground, and politics. Also economics. War is a very complex subject, but if you want to know the history of human beings, unfortunately, they are wrapped up in the history of war. Conflict, going all the way back to 6, 10, 20, 50,000 years ago when we suffered our first fights and we began to conflict with ourselves over resources and not a lot of things. But about me, I'm one of those guys that was sitting back in the classroom asleep with my brains dripping out my ears when I was a freshman and sophomore at Coronado High School down in Scottsdale. That's where I grew up. I was sure I knew all the answers. My mother and father were idiots. All my friends were better than everybody else. And I had it all figured out. And I was dumber than dirt. But that's okay. We'll figure that out. You'll get to that point in your lives. I hope. Anyways, I graduated Coronado High School in 1971 and went off to ASU in the fall of 1971 as a freshman at ASU. I spent 3 semesters there, and what did I do? I had a great time and flunked everything. I left college with a 1.2 GPA, which is, that's a lot of work. You have to flunk everything to get a 1.2. I think I passed tennis. I'm not quite sure. But I was an Army ROTC, senior Army ROTC at the University at ASU, and I was just smart enough to understand that if I wanted to make anything in my life, I'd better get my head together. So I enlisted in the Army. I left our ASU and joined the Army in December of 1972. I enlisted in the 82nd Airborne Division, and I became a paratrooper because my father had been a paratrooper, although he had been a paratrooper in the German Army, so it was slightly different. He had been a Nazi. My father was born in Berlin, came over to the States after World War II. He had gotten a law degree from the University of Berlin, and then he came over to the University of Washington in Seattle, got his law degree in the States, later on became a professor at Arizona State University. My father was obviously not very proud of me when I left ASU after 3 semesters. He didn't think that was very clever, but he did say it was the right decision because I obviously was not ready for college. Very not ready. So I joined the Army, went to be a paratrooper, 82nd Airborne, went to jump school, just like you saw, fell out of airplanes. Kind of thought, this is kind of cool. And went on to the 82nd, spent about a year and a half there, and then the Ranger battalions formed up. The 75th Rangers, I'm sure you've heard about it. This is the Ranger tab. That's going to Ranger school. This is my unit, my regiment, which is the regimental crest of the Rangers, 75th Ranger Regiment, and that is my regiment. Spent a lot of years in the regiment, and we'll talk about that as we go through my list. I spent another 2.5 years in the Rangers. Got to be a corporal, then made buck sergeant or E5, just a 3-striper sergeant, and I got out. But I realized I wanted to be an officer. I liked the Army. It was a combination of the intellectual, the emotional, and the physical that suited me well. Some people sitting behind a desk is the right answer. Some people working outside all the time is the answer. Somewhere is in between is for most of you. If you can spend all your life sitting at a desk, good luck. That's not me, but I needed some intellectual challenges too. But the leadership, the challenges, the physical challenges of the military suited me well, and it worked out. So I left the Army in 1976 as a young buck sergeant, came back to ASU, went back to school, started in ROTC again, and I graduated with a 3.7 GPA, which is pretty good when you start with a 1.2. You have to go a bit to work that 1.2 back up to a 3.7, let me tell you. But I was commissioned as a 2nd Lieutenant of Infantry, which is with my branch, and I stayed in the Army until 2000, and I retired with 26 years, and retired as a Lieutenant Colonel. Now, I have a lot of experience with both education and with the military in general, and that's, as we go through this, if you have any questions, stick your paw in the air and ask me a question. There are no dumb questions. The only ones that aren't, that you don't ask them, then you're dumb. If you have a question, ask the question, and we'll see if we can get you an answer. The little ego sheet I've got in front of you there talks a little bit about what I just mentioned and some of the places I've been stationed and units I've been assigned to over the years. But one thing is, if you join the military, you better be prepared to travel. If you're some person who likes to plant themselves and stay there for the rest of your life, the military is not for you. Because as a minimum, you will travel every 2 to 3, at the most 4 years, you'll get to stay someplace. Now, I happen to like that. And my wife liked it, and my 3 kids liked it. But some people don't do well with that, and traveling is not easy. Trust me, you can't buy a house, you can't develop equity. It's very challenging sometimes, and the military doesn't pay all that well. But there's a lot of value in that. But anyway, I lived over Camp Greaves, Korea. Anybody know where Italy is? Where's Italy? Here's Europe. The little boot right there sticking down from the bottom into the Mediterranean. I was stationed in Camp Greaves, Italy, in an airborne battalion in Vicenza, Italy. I was there for 2 years. Then I moved up to Heidelberg, Germany, which is it's a famous university there, Heidelberg University. I was stationed there for another 2 years. And then before that, though, I was stationed in Korea. Where's Korea? Anybody know? Where are they?
Right next to Japan.
Right. Here's Japan, a little length of islands. And here's Korea, China, Mongolia. And I was in Korea for a year. I spent a year on the demilitarized zone. Every morning I woke up, I looked at North Korea. And they looked back at us. It was always very interesting. But we didn't shoot each other too much. We had a couple guys walk into a minefield. That wasn't good. In the States, I was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, Fort Benning, Georgia, Fort Ord, California, Fort Lewis, Washington, Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and then back to Seattle, Washington. Units in which I've been stationed. I have 3 tours in the Ranger battalions. I have the separated shoulder, 3 times separated shoulder, 4 concussions, 1 broken jaw, 1 shattered forearm, and 1 puncture wound in my buttocks to show for the Ranger battalions. The Rangers train very hard. You do a lot of things that are hard on people, and you can only stay in them so long or you'll just get killed. But we spent 3 tours in the Rangers, once as an enlisted man and twice as an officer. I also was stationed in the 82nd, the 7th Infantry down at Fort Ord. I spent time in the Airborne Battalion in Italy and Heidelberg, Germany. And then my last assignment was at at University of Washington in Seattle, where I was the senior Army ROTC commander of the ROTC battalion, where we make lieutenants and senior ROTC. So I have a lot of experience, about 4 years at the University of Washington and 13 years in junior ROTC now. So I got a lot of years working with teenagers.
Colonel, I've got one question here.
Yes, sir.
How'd you get the puncture wound?
I landed on my knife. Yeah, it wasn't in... We had a rule, which I broke. We used to carry our own knives. We had bayonets, but bayonets aren't very good, really, to be honest. They're not very useful. I had a very nice knife called a Randall, made by a guy named Jay Randall out of Florida, famous knives. And I bought it, but it came with a leather sheath. Well, I've been carrying it for about 4 years through the swamps of Georgia, the swamps of Panama, you name it. Well, my leather sheath, I'd wrapped it in duct tape. Good duct tape is good for everything. Except holding knives in sheaths. So one day it was a night jump, it was a low drop. I landed on it. Was actually we were jumping on an airfield, and so I landed on the asphalt. I tried not to, and it just was just right because we used to wear our equipment down low, dangling below us because the chute's up here, and this was hanging off my right side, and it just got turned up enough to where it went right into my leg. Hurt.
You stabbed yourself.
I stabbed myself. Very clever. After that, I always wore a hard plastic sheath with my knife. So, but yeah, it wasn't very clever.
What about your other injuries? Anything very clever about those?
Just a lot of. I've had 4 concussions from jumps. They don't show it here, but when you parachute, it has nothing to do with how fast you're going down. That's not important. What's the more important direction you're concerned about?
The ground coming up.
No, sideways. There's a limit to how fast the wind can be blowing when you jump. It's basically 14 knots. That's the legal limit where in peacetime we can jump paratroopers, because 14 knots is about 16 to 18 miles an hour. That's like jumping off a car going 18 miles an hour down the street sideways. And driving. You're going to hit the ground. You're not going to hit the ground like this. You're going to hit the ground like that. And you're going to skid. And that's what happens when you land a parachute going sideways. Well, we occasionally, when you have 1,000 guys in 7 or 8 Air Force aircraft, and we've spent $17 million to make this jump occur, nobody cares how fast the wind's going. You're going to jump. The old joke is, okay, it's 20 knots, you get in the aircraft, you're flying, and you've been in the aircraft for hours, waiting to jump. See those guys sitting on those seats, waiting, all those equipment, and you run. 5 guys are throwing up, the other guy's puking over here. The worst thing about throwing up is what happens when you throw up.
Everybody else
throws up. So you got 15 guys with air sickness bags puking in their helmets, waiting for the doors to open. Because you've been in this aircraft for 5 or 6 hours, some cases longer, and you rigged up, and the stuff's dragging on, it's all this weight, and the aircraft's flying around, it's bobbing up and down, and you're just throwing up, and everybody else is throwing up, and it's lovely. And then you're inbound.
And everybody's going hoorah.
Yeah, not really. Everyone's just puking. That's all, and we're just miserable. But then you get these, an hour out. There's 20 knots on the drop zone. Half an hour out. It's only 20 knots on the drop zone. 10 minutes out, 20 knots on the drop zone. Jump run, 0 winds. Oh, bullshit. It's still 20 knots. It's still 20 knots, and you're going to jump out. But you go anyway. Okay, here we go. We all just groan. Oh, come on. No, out you go. Because usually there's people on the ground. There's usually cameras rolling, and you're piling out. So, because the Air Force, boy, they didn't want to fly back that again. That's just way too much fuel. So, yeah, I've had like 4 concussions doing that. Because when you hit the ground, you're coming down. It's like jumping off, a 4 foot, like probably jumping off this, probably about 5 feet maybe, is the actual downward force. It's not that much. But add that with 18 knots going sideways. And that's where the injuries occur. Break legs, ankles shatter, elbows. Collarbones are the most famous. Guys will hit, it doesn't take but 4 pounds of pressure to break a collarbone. So whenever you always try to land on your back if at all possible. But sometimes you can't help it and you land forward. So you do feet, knees, face, collarbone. And then you go, okay, that felt real good. One of those jumps are where you lay on the ground, you hit so hard, and you just lay there. Okay. What? And you start moving things. What works? All right, that's good. And you slowly get up. The rucksack that you had when you jump out is hooked up underneath your reserve, and it weighs 60, 80 pounds, but you can't land with it, it'll break your knees. So it's attached on a lowering line. Did you see that one guy had a long thing hanging below him? So when you get up in the air, you pop these two straps, and it drops down the lowering line. If it will get released, because if you don't do it right, one will bind up, and it'll land just about where your ankles are. And you can't, you're kicking it, you're smacking it, and you're trying to get it loose, and it won't go anywhere. And so you land on it. And we guys got to break knees and collarbones. And okay, it's no fun. I don't know why I did it I had jumped 156 times. I was jump status for 14 years. I don't know why. I was a glutton for punishment. Anyways, going over to the international places. Those are the places that I've trained around the world. If you want to see the world, join the military. You won't necessarily see the nice places, but you'll see a lot of places.
What is the perfect jump?
There's no such thing. Walking away is the perfect jump. Nothing's broken. Your bell's not rung too much. You're not seeing double, and you're not walking into things. That's the perfect jump. You just walk away from it. It's like a plane crash. If you land and you don't walk away, then that's a good call. There's just no fun way to do it. Now, we used to, skydivers, you can see them, they flare, they're shooting, they just step down. And, oh, it's so pretty. But that's not the way we jump. You jump like you just saw, guys coming out of a toothpaste tube with gear all over them. Oftentimes, mostly it's at night on a tack. We don't jump during the day. So you come out, you can barely see the ground. You really don't know where it is. So if you're lucky, there's a moon. What you really hear is, unfortunately, all the guys hitting the ground before you. Then you go, ugh. It's just like a little ripple down the drop zone. Thump, 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 thump. And that's just, I hate to say, but that's what it turns out to be. And then you lay there and go, why did I do this? What did I sign up this for? What was glamorous about this exactly? So anyway, but that, yeah, airborne. But there are, the skydivers, what we call halo, which is military free fall, high altitude, low opening. That's enough. But those guys jump with huge amounts of gear too. They got rucksacks between their legs. They got rifles down their side. Some cases they have oxygen. They're jumping from above 15,000 feet. They have to wear oxygen. They have to jump that. There was a good show a few years ago down the Halo school's down at Yuma, and they jumped down there. And good weather for it. There's a lot of trouble getting stable. They call it Mr. Rucksack. If you got a 60-pound ruck between your legs strapped and you're trying to get stable, you start rocking back and forth, you get on your side and upside down. You can't be upside down when you open a Halo chute. You're going too fast. You'll just tumble into it and you'll just get wrapped up in it and it'll kill you. So Halo jumping is not much fun. I've done civilian skydiving. I've never done Halo. Never got that training. I didn't want it really. But it was back to the international places. All those places I've trained or been or to or lived all around the world.
What's your favorite place?
Oh, it got to be Italy. Really, I was stationed in Italy for 2 years. Love the Italian people. They're crazy, but they're funny. The Italian army is nuts. They sleep during the day. They do everything at night, which we just did everything in the day, and then we worked with them at night, so we never got any sleep. But all those places have their own kind of neat little world. We travel around the world and you see different militaries. Every one of those countries that I've listed there, I trained with their army, which is always neat. We always have a language barrier, but it's amazing how you get past that. Saudi Arabia is a crazy place. Kuwait's a crazy place. Rwanda was one of the most difficult things. I was there right after the genocide that occurred in 92, 93. I was the aide to the general who was in command of the relief operation for Rwandan genocide. That was pretty bad. We showed up in Kigali, Rwanda, and there were dead bodies everywhere. Just everywhere. Not only from being shot or macheted, they had died from cholera or lack of water. It was pretty grim. Rwanda's a beautiful country. It's in the center right here of Africa. It's near Zaire, now Congo, and just south of Uganda, near Lake Victoria. Beautiful, beautiful country. But they had ethnic problems. If you ever want to read about a brutal, brutal campaign in Rwanda, it doesn't get much talk about it. It was one of the first genocides that was ever really recognized by the UN. There's a book called, I forget, I regret to inform you tomorrow we will die. It was actually listed by a person who wrote a little sort of a letter to his relatives. He knew he was going to get killed the next day. Long story. Some of the military schools I've been to down there at the bottom. Again, airborne school. I'm also a jump master. Some of the other schools, military, biological, long-range reconnaissance, kind of like scouting, looking for places. These are all areas that have training available that you can do that allow you to learn other skills. One thing about the military is it is about education. If you go in the military, you will always be going to another school or learning something new. The bottom line is that if you're standing still, you're stagnant. If you're not constantly improving yourself, you're of no use to us. If you can't improve yourself, you're of no use to us. And that sometimes people will do a tour in the military. They don't like the culture, they don't like the mentality, and they move on. That's fine. It's no blood, no foul. We prefer that people do not like the military move on. It used to be, when we had the draft, people had to be in the military. You were forced to be there. Ultimately, we realized that was not a good idea. The volunteer army, the volunteer services in general, are a much better deal. People are there because they want to be there. They can take the training they want, whether they want to be an aircraft mechanic or a ranger or a parachute rigger or a medical technician. There are a vast amount of skills. Every skill that exists in the world around you, in the civilian world, the military is a microcosm of the civilian world. If there is something you want to do, I guarantee you it exists within the military. And Uncle Sugar, Uncle Sam, will be happy to take your time and give you money. Uncle Sam will make that trade every day of your life. You give him time, he will give you money in terms of salary and in terms of training. You want to be in the Navy, you want to be a reactor technician. They will pay you for the 2 years it takes to learn nuclear physics and to run a nuclear reactor. They will pay you a $60,000 a year bonus. Now, you have to sign up for 6 years because it takes 2 years of training. They want 4 years out of you. And you'll be a submariner or you'll work on a cruiser that is a nuclear powered, and you get out and then you can sell your skills to the nuclear industry for $200,000 a year. Now, that's if you can do calculus and nuclear physics. If you can't do that, don't even try.
Why don't you talk about getting into college?
Oh, okay, that's good. Going back to my little story about myself here. One of the things I did not appreciate when I went to college, right out of high school, was that I was not ready to go to high school. The vast majority of you, and this is heresy in education, are not ready to go to college when you graduate high school. How many of you are seniors in here? You going to college right out of high school?
That's right.
Thank you. Thank God. How about you? Maybe? Okay. What's the national average for freshmen at a 4-year institution? What's the rate at which they drop out? Anybody know? 50%. 50% of the freshmen that start at ASU this fall will drop out before they finish their freshman year. Why is that?
They're not ready for it, sir.
They're not ready to go to college. How different is college than high school? Well, you don't have any idea, so that's a rhetorical question. But let me give you a little extra. Do you think the professor cares whether you're going to pass his class?
No.
Is he going to call your parents or ask you, like the colonel, would you please turn your paperwork in? No. Do you think he cares? Why would he care? He's already got your money. From a professor's point of view, you're a pain in the butt to him. You are something that's keeping him from writing and researching and doing publications. He doesn't even really want to teach that much. Most classes at the freshman and sophomore level are taught by who? Graduate assistants. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to get their master's degree done. So again, you're just an irritation to them. And if you don't want to turn your homework in, what do they care? You've already paid your tuition, haven't you? You're there. And if you flunk out, there'll be somebody else to fill your slot. Now, this comes from somebody who spent 4 years teaching at the University of Washington in Seattle. And I watched it all the time. Also, as well as called Professor of Military Science, the unfortunate acronym PMS. Those things. I know it's unfortunate, but that's what I was, a Professor of Military Science. I was the department chair for the ROTC programs. Now, I handed out hundreds of thousands of dollars of scholarships from the Army for cadets coming in to senior ROTC so I could make them lieutenants in the Army. I was focused on trying to keep these kids because I wanted them here, because I wanted to give them scholarships, and I was the one that was trying to make them lieutenants. But the bottom line was, many of them were not ready. Some of them, the bulging brains, were the guys who had 4.5 GPAs, but what else had they done in high school? Nothing. We call that the whole person concept. If you've got a 4.5 GPA, but you're not in sports or student government or some kind of club or some kind of activity, you are not what we are looking for. I'll tell you right now, I'm as brutal as I can be. You are too brittle. I had all these kids that would come in as freshmen in college, and they'd never had a job. They'd never been on an athletic team. They'd never been in charge of anything. I don't want people that can merely do academics. What am I looking for?
Leadership. Well-rounded.
Precisely. Leaders. Hardest thing in the world to create is a leader. You really can't even create them. They have to be built from within. But leadership is not something you're born with. It is something you develop. And it must be well-rounded. You must understand people. The guys I like and gals I like the most are the ones that have been in sports, had student government, had a good job, worked at some grocery store bagging groceries and getting cussed out by people because they understood how crazy people are. At the same time, they had a 3.5 GPA and they took good classes. And, more important than anything else, they got a good score on the SAT or ACTs. How important is your GPA? Yeah, exactly. Why? Now, I know this is heresy amongst education, and I'm sure your counselors will go, "Oh, that's not true." Yeah, it is. Take it from somebody who was at a university who looked at thousands of GPAs transcripts from high school students. Why is it not important? Not important, but less important than you think it is.
Because they're not looking for people who get good grades. They're looking at people who can do several things and still do each one good.
Partially, but just from the numbers perspective, why is the GPA not so valuable?
Because maybe my high school was easy to get grades and yours wasn't.
Exactly. I guess somebody comes in a 4.5 GPA and he can't pass freshman English. What does that tell me about his high school?
They just wanted to pass them on.
Yeah, they're just passing them on, send them down the road. Not going to be a problem. But I get somebody that comes in with a 3.5 GPA, but gets honors math and English at college level. Obviously, this guy was well trained, knew how to do it. Somebody who gets an ACT score of 15, but had a 4.5 GPA. What does that say about their school? It was just easy. He wasn't challenged. He didn't have the information. Somebody came in and gets a 28 ACT score, gets you into the academies, but had a 3.5 GPA. But he was also in sports. He was also in student government, had a job, worked in his community. Is that the guy I'm looking for? Absolutely. Those are the people I gave scholarships to. You've got to be well-rounded. We are not insects. Okay? I hate to say that, but we are well-rounded generalists. We are not specialized. You must be able to do all things. You must be able to do math. You must be able to write. You must be able to speak to people. You must play an instrument. You must know how to sing a song. You must know how to get up in front of a crowd and speak to them. These are the talents and skills that successful people have. This is the time to develop it. And you will waste your time, some of you, talking to the guy laughing back there, some of you will be wasting your time in this high school. And you'll get done with 4 years of high school and you'll wonder, what the hell happened? Where did they go? And let me tell you something, folks. It just picks up speed. It just gets faster. You think back when you were in 5th or 6th grade. Remember how long summer vacation lasted? Forever. And now how long does summer vacation last? Like it's gone. I'm 60. Think how long my summer vacation lasts. It's gone. Why is that? That's a term called tempus fugit. Time flies. Why is that? It's a philosophy. It's a theory. Why is time seem to pick up speed? Anybody know? This is just a question.
Because you're doing more.
Now, well, partially, but philosophy. If you're 15 right now, what's 1 year? Percentage of your life. 1/15 of your life, right? When you were 5 years old, what was a year? 1/5 of your life. I'm 60. What's a year in my life? 1/60th of my life. That's the philosophy behind time. It just gets faster, folks. If you are wasting time now, you are wasting time that you can do a lot with. When I waste time, I'm wasting a lot of time. So I try not to waste time. But educationally, for your career, for your philosophies, if you want to be successful, I don't care what it is, military, business, education, whatever you want to go, whatever direction you want to go in, you need to make that effort and put the time in now. I know it's hard. Everybody likes to be lazy. We're all kind of whiners. We're all kind of lazy. Oh, we'll do it tomorrow. Well, that's not the answer because it won't get you anywhere. And some of you won't go anywhere. I'll be as rude as I can be. Do you think that guy standing on the street corner begging for quarters when he was in high school, thought his life would turn out that way? No, he did not. And I know none of you in this room are sure that you're not going to be begging for quarters 10 years from now. That's not going to happen to me. But you know what? It probably will to one of you. For all kinds of reasons. Some of them are out of our control, and some of them are not. So I want to be as brutally honest as I can. I got lucky. I found a place where I fit, and that was the military. Got out of high school, went to college, screwed it up, but was just smart enough to know, hey, I'm screwing this up. Let me fix it. Became a soldier, went back, became an officer, found a career that really suited me. Found a wife that would stick with me. Found 3 kids that actually kind of liked doing what we were doing. Every time we were up there for a couple of years, they kept asking me, hey, when are we moving again? Where are we going next time? Because they were in Italy, and they were in Germany, and they were in Washington, they were in California, and they loved to kind of travel. So look for those opportunities. Look for that out. Right now, you are setting, and I know you've heard this 1,000 times, it's coming out your ears. But the bottom line is you are preparing yourself for the future. If you're wasting it now, you'll waste it later. And the more you waste now, the more you'll waste later. So really look for these. This is my little love sheet of myself. I call my I love me sheet. How wonderful am I? Not very, but it worked out for me. I hope it works out for all of you. But it doesn't happen by chance. If you don't put any energy into it, I guarantee you'll be looking for quarters on the street.
Got about 4 minutes left. Any questions?
I don't want to be rude about it, but that's my answer. Any questions, sir?
What is that big badge?
This one?
Yes.
These are my pimp wings. As an airborne soldier, especially when I was stationed in Vicenza, Italy, we were the only American airborne unit in Europe. So the French or the Germans or the Swiss or the Spanish, these are Spanish wings, would jump with us. We would give them our parachute wings in return for their parachute wings. And everybody wanted the Spanish wings because by far they're the most gaudy. I've got German wings, I've got Italian wings, and I've got actually Botswana wings. But these are by far the gaudiest and the coolest, so I wear these. Yes, sir.
What's the shield for?
Which one? This one here?
Yes, sir.
This is the unit crest of the Ranger Regiment. Each unit in the United States Army has a crest or a unit insignia. They all have a style. They're all designed like, it gets a little involved, but this goes back to the Rangers of World War II. Darby's Rangers, Merrill's Marauders of the Indochina War, the lightning bolts for Ranger operations, the stars for the Sun of China, and the Star of Burma. And it talks about the regiment. And each person in the military, in the Army anyway, belongs to a regiment. And these are old regimental things that go back, way back to the Revolutionary War and Civil War. But that's kind of our history. Our traditions come back with, we're very traditionally oriented service and organization. And so we hold on to those. It gives us a ground, it gives us a stability. Sir?
Which did you like more, I should say, the infantry or the airborne?
Well, the infantry's my branch. That's what my crossed rifles. There are various kinds of infantry. There's mechanized infantry, the guys that ride in the back of tanks. Yeah. There is airborne infantry, air assault, the guys riding helicopters. I like the airborne. I like being in the Rangers, and the very best reason is because I'm not all that good. I really am not. I'm an okay soldier. I'm pretty good, pretty smart. But being in units like that, you're around the very best people there can be. And if you are around people that are better than you are, and you're at least got your poo-poo together at all, what's that do for you?
You get better.
You makes you better. You don't want to be on the team that you're the best player on. Because are you going to grow any?
Not at all.
No. You want to be where people are going to push you. I like being in the airborne. I like being in the Rangers because the guys around me were better than I was. And they made me better. And that's a challenge I always wanted to take. Because I didn't want to be who I am. I want to be somebody better. But if you're, and again, I said, if you can accept who you are and you don't mind that, then you're okay. You'll be where you are. But if you want to grow, be around people that challenge you.
Room, 10 Hunt. Remember APT tomorrow, guys. Dismissed. Go!